Hello and welcome to project number 3 in our Tkinter series. In this video we're going to be building a simple spreadsheet project. The goal of it is to create a fully functioning spreadsheet from which we can actually save data to a text file, load data from a text file, and we'll also add in a few other features that typically come with spreadsheets. Alright, and the main highlight of today, besides the spreadsheet of course, is the grid layout manager. So in this video, the spreadsheet is basically going to be made using the grid layout manager. So that's something I really want to focus on today. Okay, so I have some base code set up over here. We have our class, in which we'll create all our code, our GUI code. Here's some basic setup and imports. I'm going to be creating some simple frames now. All right, I'm going to create this frame here called the main frame. If you've been watching my previous videos, you'll remember my technique. But for those of you who don't, I basically create a main frame, and then I'm going to put all the other frames and widgets inside of this main frame. Okay, so I'm just going to pack this one over here. Okay, here we go. Now what I'm going to do basically is divide my Tkinter window, the Tkinter project, into 3 frames, 3 subframes: top, middle, and bottom. It's a good format, and since I've already made this project, I know it works out well. And it may not make much sense to you right now, but as we near the end of this project, you'll see that it's actually pretty effective. So I'm going to start making them. Okay, top.pack, and here let's just move a little quickly. Okay, and this is top. And you know what? Just to make it easier to note these down, let's use these comments over here. Okay, this is the top section. Now let's quickly copy paste this, and let's make another section down here. I know this is a lot of preparation when we haven't even begun, but this is all good framework. Right, it'll help us a lot later. Okay, and the final section, the bottom. Okay, and we're done, pretty much. Okay, so let's begin placing in some widgets. Now in the top, I just want to put in something simple. Okay, title. Let's call this a title, and let's put a label over here, self.top. Okay, because it's in the top frame, and text is equal to welcome to our spreadsheet. Okay, and self.title.pack. Let's copy paste this again, because I use these values a lot, and this work everywhere pretty much. Okay, so for now let's just leave this in. Okay, and let's see, what else do I want to do? Yes, okay, in here we're going to create our grid. Okay, in the middle. So I'm just going to leave this blank for now. I'm going to create some buttons down here. Okay, we'll leave the spreadsheet for last. So self.submit, submit button. Actually, wait, what does the submit button even do in a spreadsheet? So more like save. Okay, let's make one for save, one for load, and one for clear. Okay, so let's make 3 buttons now. Self.bottom, because the buttons are obviously at the bottom usually, unless you're making a menu or something. So save, and now we need to give them commands as well, but we'll do that later. Okay, not now, because we'll have to create functions for them then. That comes later. Let's focus on the design first, and then the functionality. So what am I doing here? Okay, load, self.load.pack. All right, is equal to button, self.bottom, text is equal to clear. Okay, so far we've just been creating widgets. All right, now the actual layout, the layout management and the actual work comes in. Let's quickly run this code and hope that we did everything right. Okay, good. Our widgets have been made. Now I'm going to do some alignment. Okay, I just want to align these buttons up a bit. So basically, I want these two to go to the right. Okay, and you go to the left. Now let's see how this looks. Okay, good. Okay, there's still one slight mistake over here. Not a mistake, actually. We'll explore this later, okay? But for now, I've completed the base alignment, okay? We can begin working on the grid, and we'll come back to this later. Okay, so the grid now. Okay, now this is where things get interesting. I've just been using pack so far, I know, but this is where we actually begin using grid. Okay, and trust me, it's not a good idea. I mean, you can get by on using just one layout manager, but the more you learn, the more things will be effective. Okay, the more situations you'll be able to handle and properly and fully take advantage of them. Okay, so enough of that, and let's actually go ahead and create our spreadsheet. Okay, this is going to be a little bit complicated. The first thing I want to do is make a spreadsheet. The first thing I want to do is make a 2D array. In this 2D array, I'm basically going to put all the entry widgets. Okay, actually hold on. I should slow down a bit. Basically, the strategy that I have here is that we're going to make a 2D array of entry widgets. And basically, we have a spreadsheet. Because think about it. What is a spreadsheet? It's just something, it has individual cells in which we're actually entering data. So if I make a 2D array, with like width, there are like 10 entry widgets on width and 10 on the height. Okay, so there's like 100 entry widgets in total. If you make them in a table-like format like that, isn't that just a spreadsheet? So that was actually the idea that I had, that I actually came up with one, so I thought it would be cool to share, which is why I'm making this video. So I'm going to make this array called self.cells, and I'm going to use list comprehension to do this, to initialize it. Okay, I want to initialize it with some certain values. Okay, slight mistake there. None for I in range columns. At least I think that's columns. I always mix this up. For range in, for j row. This is basically it. Okay, and in this variable over here, I'm going to define the number of rows and columns. So how many rows do we want? 10. And for columns, let's make this a bit wider, 12. Okay, and let's just run this to make sure I did it correctly. Okay, great, it's running. So now what I'm going to do is iterate over this thing, like for I in range row, for j in range column, I'm going to put inside this cells array at this location an entry widget. Okay, and this entry widget will be connected to self.middle. Okay, and one more thing, we need to give it a width, because trust me, once if you leave it at the default value, what's going to happen is that they're actually pretty wide. So if you make like 10 of them, and if you make 10 of them like this, then it's going to expand a lot. So just put it down to something low, like 5. Okay, and then down here I'm going to do self.cells dot I and j. Okay, the entry widget at the ith and jth index, packet. Hold on, what am I doing? It's grid. Okay, row is equal to I and column is equal to j. Okay, now this is where I really hope that you actually watched my first layout tutorial video, in which I actually explained all the 3 layout managers. If you didn't, I'll just re-explain this right now, so don't worry. Let's just run this code to see whether it actually works. Okay, great, look at that. You see here, we have our spreadsheet. That's all it took. It took 5 lines of code to make the actual spreadsheet. Now, this is where I begin showing you, we'll follow up with a brief explanation now on what really happened here. And then after that, we'll begin working on some of the layout, okay, making it look better. And then we'll focus on the functionality, okay, for save, load, and clear, okay? All right, so let me actually explain this now. This here is a technique called list comprehension, which is something unique to Python. It's probably the best way out there to create 2D lists or arrays, whatever you want to call them. So over here, basically it's creating them of type none, okay, and it's going up to this range, okay, which is basically the columns. And basically then we have the rows, okay. So what's really happening here is that we're creating a rowth number, like row is 10, right? So we're creating 10 of these. And what are these? These are 1D lists, okay, which are of size 12. So basically what I did here, this is basically a 1D list. This creates a 1D list. And then I did this how many times? 10 times, okay? So that's basically list comprehension. And over here then we have our dual for loop, and basically we're creating entry widgets and placing them within these locations, okay? They start from 0, 0, and then they go up to the rowth and column index, okay? And then basically over here we use the grid layout manager. The grid layout manager, it works within frames or the Tkinter window. Just one thing you need to keep in mind: you cannot use pack and grid in the same frame or the same window. And by the same window, I mean, like, imagine that there were no frames in the window and you use pack and grid at the same time. Okay, it won't work. Like, if I try using grid outside of this middle frame, it's gonna cause error. Why? Because well, obviously over here you can see that we're using pack, and pack and grid can't be used in the same frame. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You know what, let me go ahead and show you that. Self dot e is equal to button, self dot middle, text is equal to yada yada. So self dot e dot pack, and let's see what happens. There you go. Take a look at this. Okay, so yeah, don't use them in the same frame. Okay, so basically what else is there to say? Well, this is pretty self-explanatory. Row is equal to I, column is equal to j. It's just the same thing as this, really. We're just positioning them as the for loops iterate over the rows and column range. Okay, so yeah, that's a spreadsheet. And now let's move on to some of the functionality. Okay, and I'm going to start creating some functions down here. First one is for save. Okay, great. Let's just leave this empty for now. And this one is for load, and this one is for clear. Clear is the most simple, so let's just go ahead and do this first. Basically what I want to do is completely clear everything within the spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm going to iterate over that spreadsheet. How do I iterate over this? Well, I need to know the size, right? I could just write for I in range 10, but I think a better way of doing this would be to make this accessible within this function like this, and then self dot row. So yeah, so basically if I change these up here, it's gonna affect everything like this and this automatically. So that's called, this is good coding, basically good practice. And over here what I'm gonna do is, how do I do that again? Yeah, self dot cells, and this index, the I and jth index, what I want to do is, what was it? Delete, right? This takes two parameters. The first parameter is the starting point from which you want to delete, and the second one is the end point. Okay, this is handy if you want to only delete something, like maybe delete the first letter or something else. But if you just want to delete everything inside, just do this. Okay, what this does is that it starts from the 0th index, the 0th position inside the entry, and this automatically locates the end. Like, you don't know what the end is, right? There could be 5 characters and there could be 2, 3, 4, whatever. So you don't know that. So we would just write end over here and it will automatically do that for you. So let's go ahead and try this. We haven't actually, hold on, slight mistake here. What is this? Oh, okay. Add self over there. We haven't actually tried out our spreadsheet yet. So I'll show you by entering some data. Boy, self. This is why you just do everything correct from the start. Otherwise, you need to go around fixing everything. All right. So let me enter something like 0099. Okay. Some random letters here. Okay. And let me press clear. And I just remembered this is not going to work. And the reason for that is that we never connected it. So let's go over here and say command is equal to self dot clear. And this is a problem now because I just realized that the functions and these have the same names. So you know what? We'll call these save buttons. Okay. I don't like the long name, honestly, but we don't really have much of a choice, honestly. Okay. So self.clear. There we go, 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 there we go. Clear. See? There. Awesome, right? So just one more thing. I want to actually do a little trick over here where I want to do expand is equal to true and fill is equal to x. And I want to do the same to this. Now I just want to run this first and then I'll explain. Okay, look at that. Now tell me, doesn't this look better than what we had previously? Because they're like, these are in their, in their own corner over there, and clear is in its own corner over there. So let me explain what is happening. Basically, right now, this frame has expanded to fill the entire space available in the x direction. And you see the parameters that I mentioned over here completely fit. Expand is equal to true, fill is equal to x. Expand is equal to true, fill is equal to x. Now, why did I do this to both of these? Why did I do it to the main frame as well as the bottom? Well, let me tell you this. If I were to only do this within the bottom, you know what's going to happen? Well, you see the main frame, the bottom frame is in the main frame. So if the main frame doesn't expand, how is the bottom frame going to expand? So that's why it's necessary to do it in the main frame. And of course, it's necessary to do it in the bottom frame. By the way, other options are y and both, okay? But I just need x over here, so I'm doing x, okay? So basically over here, once bottom expanded, because expand basically, it expands the frame to fill in the empty space. Otherwise, what was happening earlier is that it was just center aligned because the frame just adjusted to fit the size of the widgets, okay? That's basically how it works. Again, if you have any confusion, go watch my layout tutorial video. I have a lot of information in there. I sat down and explained each parameter individually, okay? So yeah, let's just run this one more time. Okay, and clear. Great. Now let's focus on load and save, which is also the main topic for today, regarding the backend. Okay, so let's open this file here. File is equal to open. This is just some basic file handling, okay, so don't worry. Okay, I'm going to open this in write mode because I want to write to a file. And what I'm going to do now is iterate over it like this. I'll just copy this over here. And then what I'm going to do is dot write self dot cells dot dot get. Alright, so basically if I do this over here, it's going to iterate over the entire thing and it's going to write each value to the file, okay? So, but there's one slight problem. I don't want to write all the files, all the values down like that, because you know what, let me go ahead and run this and actually show you what the problem is, okay? Alright, I'm going to click save. Hold on, I did not connect that function now, did I? And you know what, let's go ahead and just connect all of these, okay? Let's connect this to self.load and this to self.save, alright? Now let's go ahead and do this. So, okay, save, alright. Here I have the file over here. You can see data has popped up. This is project 3, by the way, that we're working on. So if I open up data over here, we can see that there's 0000 written over there, which is, well, pretty bad. The problem is over here is that there's no spacing, there's no nothing, and it's a mess, okay? We can't make any sense out of what's being written to the file. So I'm going to do a few things over here. For one, I'm going to add a comma, okay? And then after every row completes, I'm going to add a new line, okay? Like this. This is the new line character. So after each row completes, like the first row happens, then it'll move to the next line basically. Now I'm going to run this and we'll see what happens. Okay, I'm just going to write some of these. Let's leave some other numbers in here. Okay, save. Let's open it up. Okay, look at that. That looks better. We can actually make sense of this now. Like these are the rows, okay? And well, yeah, it looks legible now. We can actually read it and make sense of it. So let's go back here now and let's begin figuring out how to load this. Okay, so I'm going to open the file again in load mode, and by the way, include a file.close over here. Okay, and yeah, so I'm going to open the file here, the same file, data.txt. I'm going to open it in read mode. Okay, R for read and the W over there for write. And then what I'm going to do, okay, what we have to do now is basically load them back into our spreadsheet. So how are we going to do that? Well, there are a few tricky things over here, honestly. There are a few slight issues. So what I'm going to do here now is actually begin reading data. I'll create a variable called temp and then call the file.readline function. Okay, now what readline here does is that it reads a line from the file and returns it in the string format. So when you call it this for the very first time, it returns the first line in the file. You call it one more time, it'll return the second line. Again, you do it again, it'll return the third line, and so on. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm putting this readline function in between the row for loop and the column for loop. Basically what happens here is that this for loop runs how many times? Row is 10, self.row, the value is 10. So this, where to go? Yeah, load. So basically this for loop is going to run 10 times. So this means this file.readline function will also be called 10 times. So basically what we're doing here really is reading each line from the file. Okay, it's basically we're syncing up the readline function to the for loop. Now just for clarity, I'm going to print out temp over here so you see what's going on. Okay, load, and see the data that we wrote to the file earlier has all been printed out. You see here, and you see these commas over here are nicely separating the values, so we can actually see them pretty clearly. So that's why I was actually using the commas, and for one more reason actually, which is the major reason, which I'll tell you about in a minute. You see here the commas, basically I'm using them as separators. There's a format in file handling called CSV, comma separated values. It's basically a file storage format that's used and it's pretty effective. Okay, there are actually inbuilt libraries for CSV and stuff if you really want to get into it, but I'm just teaching you the bare bones techniques over here. So CSV is a useful technique, and the reason why I like using it so much is that hold on, just one thing I want to mention. You see, what are we really trying to do over here? We want to obtain these values. Okay, we want to obtain 0, we want to obtain 6, we want to obtain these values to basically put them back into these entry boxes, right? That's what load is. So we can't just put this entire string inside, right? We need to obtain these individual values, which is basically the purpose of these commas, because there's a really useful function in Python called split. This takes a delimiter, and a delimiter is something basically around which you break something. Okay, in this context. Okay, so basically what I'm telling this function is that split this string around the comma, and I think you won't really get this until I actually show you what it produces. So I'm just going to run this right now and press load and see what happens here. You see this? Take a good look. Basically this is a list. Okay, these are 10 lists over here, and they have the individual values here, and you can see there are no commas. There are no commas. There are only 10 values. These are null because we didn't put anything inside of them. And by the way, these commas are part of the list. Okay, they're not from the spreadsheet or from the data file. And yeah, let me just count: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 12. Now there's just one slight problem here. This new line character, I don't want that. Okay, I don't want that new line character over here. Okay, it's just interfering. And the reason I actually put that new line character was to basically move to the next line. But because it's still in the file, when I'm reading the file, it shows up, and that's a problem. So for that, I'm going to use another handy function in Python called strip. I'm just going to say I want you to strip that new line character out of the string, and guess what happens? Oof, hold on, slight issue here. hold on. Okay, my bad, I made a slight mistake here. I'm not supposed to use this yet, and the reason for this is that this is actually a list. Okay, we use a strip on strings, so I'm actually gonna use this in the next step over here. Let me just store this value, okay, in there. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is actually begin inserting this data. Hold on. Okay, dot insert. Insert, by the way, is a function for entry widgets. You can basically use this to insert data into them manually. Okay, and what I'm going to do here, this takes two parameters. The first parameter is the location where you want to insert it. Okay, so you can like put it at the end of the list or in the middle of the list or something, but we want to put it in the start of the list. So I'm just going to put 0. Okay, and then what comes next? The value that you want to insert. Yeah, so I'm going to do temp.strip. Okay, and this will be, by default, actually remove the new line character. So just watch this. Now I'm gonna press load. Okay. Of course, what am I doing? I actually meant to do this. This is the string. Temp is the list, and I'm basically accessing the individual values over here. Because let me just print this out one more time, just to be absolutely clear. Just ignore that spreadsheet right now. Basically, this is the list. This is temp. Okay. Basically, what I want to access these individual values, right? So I'm going to use j over here as the index. Okay, because we're iterating over the whole column, which is also the same thing as iterating over temp. So if I click load over here now, we get all these values in here. You see, it's pretty neat. So yeah, this is basically we're done. This is our spreadsheet. But hold on, something just occurred to me, a slight bug that might occur. What if there's already data in the file? In the spreadsheet. What if there's already some data in the spreadsheet and we just insert the data over there? Now that's a terrible idea, which is why I'm going to use this function self.clear that we made earlier. Where to go? Yeah, I'm going to use this function to basically clear everything within the file, okay, so that when we insert data, there's nothing inside. Okay, it's basically like we're cleaning the spreadsheet first, and then we're putting data into it. So even if I do this, okay, and then I load data, you see it removes all that, and then it inserts the new data. And let's just remove that line over there. We don't need it anymore. And yeah, we're done. Let's just do one more round, okay. And that's not enough. Just put some strings in there, okay, and save, okay, and clear, load. There you go. You see, this is all happening. And let's just take one more look at our little file over here. There you go. So that's about it. We've done this pretty efficiently, I think, and it all went pretty well. So in our next project, we'll probably be taking a look at a notepad and hopefully be expanding it to a syntax highlighter. I've actually made the entire project. I'm just trying to figure out how to actually convey it properly, okay? Because the syntax highlighter thing is a bit tricky, okay? It's a pretty cool video though, so I really suggest you check it out, even if you're not interested in making a syntax highlighter, because the concept behind it is actually pretty cool, which is why I actually made it myself first. I was just curious, so I'm just sharing it with you guys. So other than that, just subscribe, because we have a lot more videos coming out, okay? So subscribe so you don't miss them, and leave a comment if you have any suggestions or contributions to make. Sure, it's good to hear your feedback. So yeah, see you in a later video.